Hi, ladies. It's Angela here. Thank you so much to everyone who is able to attend this webinar live. And I'm really looking forward to sharing with you the truth about how we can balance our hormones as females after the age of 40. You have told me, definitely many females have told me that they're not feeling like themselves as they get into their 40s, 50s, and beyond. They're noticing shifts and changes in their body. They're not feeling comfortable anymore. It's really starting to impact quality of life, ability to function, and just general vitality and hopes for the future. So, I want to let you know the truth about why this is happening. And I also want to let you know the 4-step plan that the clients that I work with in my business on a day to day basis, what they use to help them regain their energy, improve their weight management, and optimize their moods again. And I find that these are some of the top concerns for females, and they may be having various nuances beyond this, but these are the top concerns that most females that I speak with are struggling with in this time of life. So let's talk about what you can do about it. So again, let's think about what you can discover here. Think of this woman here, this midlife woman swinging on the swing in the sunset. She has returned back to vitality, a feeling of lightness in her body, and even that ability to just have fun, let go, and enjoy again. Can you remember the last time that you felt that way? It may have been not that long ago, or it may have been quite some time ago. So let's figure out how we can get you back to feeling this way and remembering that feeling of feeling light, free, fun, and like yourself again. So what you do need to know is, we're in just the information overload era, especially with AI exploding. Google already showing us what we think we need to know. We can really type in anything and it's available within a millisecond at our fingertips when we're asking about information out there about our top concerns and symptoms and what to do about it. So I definitely do understand where you are with that. And I want to let you know that there is many different approaches out there when you type in your top symptoms. And it can be so confusing to understand what is the way to understand the path forward for you. So I want to let you know that the approach that I take as a functional medicine practitioner and healthcare professional that has been working in the field of women's health for many years and has discovered that the number one way to help you as a female over 40, heal and rebalance your body and your systems to feel like the best version of yourself again is a natural lifestyle based approach. And it really can be that simple. And the reason for this is because I've tried so many different approaches working with women with all of the trainings that I have done as a health professional with my undergraduate and master's degrees and all of my extended specialized training beyond that. I know that the only way to really actually help you feel better for the long term is to have a natural lifestyle based approach to give you that lasting solution. The quick fix approaches to try and get you out of symptom hell, I could say symptom hell, or just trying to manage those symptoms is not going to get you to where you want to be long term. And I've seen that so many times over in my practice over the last 25 years. So what do we need to know? So in both the natural health practitioner world and the conventional medicine world, and many healthcare professionals like myself have worked with both or even still currently do. But many of these approaches are still looking at whether it's the natural or conventional methods. Quick fix type solutions. Very commonly in the natural health world, it's going to be a supplement or some herbal or natural strategy that is really still in a quick fix type fashion approach. And with conventional medicine, there may or may not be a diagnosis depending on who you see, whether it be a general practitioner or a specialist. And often you will be left with, again, symptom management strategies, some sort of quick fix approach. And it often does involve a medication. And, the truth is that neither of these approaches are going to work for you to have a lasting solution to the symptoms that you're experiencing in your 40s as a female, moving into perimenopause and menopause. There is more that needs to be done. So I want to let you know that on this webinar, you're here ideally because you are looking to gain information that's going to help you both now and for years to come. So I'm going to show you how you can do this. And if you are still here on this webinar, I want to let you know who this webinar truly is for as well. You are a female over the age of 35 or 40. Many women that I work with are in their mid to late 40s or early to mid 50s, most commonly. And women are experiencing these top symptoms. So fluctuating moods is one of the most common symptoms that women tell me they're having. They think there's various different reasons for this, but they're feeling mood swings, they're feeling irritability, anxiety, depression. Moods can be all over the place, I find, for women, especially in perimenopause. And then in menopause, moods can still be out of balance, but they may not be fluctuating quite as much. But it's such a common symptom, and it just impacts that overall quality of life so much for you. As a woman, as a human being, and it impacts your ability to have relationships with others if you're not feeling balanced with your mood. I know some women tell me it absolutely destroys their close interpersonal relationships. It can ruin their marriage. There's so many different things that can, end up having them being fired from their job, things like that. So, it's stuff that's pretty serious and impacting your quality of life significantly if you're noticing this. And some women are noticing this on a daily basis, and it feels out of control in that it just comes out of nowhere and they can't manage it. Many women also, very, very common, they struggle with weight. So it's super common to gain weight around the belly. Many women describe belly fat coming in the perimenopause, menopause shift, and they never had that before. Or if you did have it before, it's getting worse. Often women report more fat around the back, hips, and thigh area as well, and they just don't feel comfortable in their bodies anymore. On average, women gain anywhere between 10 and 20 pounds in the menopause shift, and some women gain more. And this is also a health risk for us. So it's something to really be thinking about what the solution is around this and why it's happening. A lot of women also experience debilitatingly low energy. This may or may not go along with brain fog, but it's super common as well. Many women are experiencing memory issues, energy with their brain not being able to sustain throughout the day to do their work and their basic tasks of everyday life. They say, I get to the grocery store, I forget why I'm there, what I need to buy. It's super common. And many women just feel like they're crashing with their energy, either mid-morning, mid-afternoon, or they get out of bed and they can never actually have that energy that they know they used to have on a daily basis. And it's impacting their ability to do things at work, at home, socially. They say no, they feel more reclusive because they just don't have that stamina or that will to go out and be in the world anymore. So this could, if this sounds familiar, any of these things, which are super, super common for females over 40, you're probably in the right place if you want a solution. But the solution, I want to also be super clear for women that I work with, the solution is not a quick fix solution with a package or a pill. There is no simple cure to hormone imbalance symptoms and symptoms for women that as they're transitioning to perimenopause and menopause. We have to be looking at the whole body to help you understand the strategy for a lasting solution. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover the top 4 myths about hormones and hormone balance for females in their 40s and beyond. What is really holding you back as a female in this time of life, and what can we do about it? And what we can do about it is a 4-step plan that I've created to help women rebalance hormones naturally without HRT or medications. Now, the solution I have is without HRT or medications, but I want to qualify that and let you know that I do work with women that are already on HRT and or some form of medication, and they can still follow this 4-step strategy to improve on those top symptoms and concerns. Very, very commonly when women are on HRT and or other prescriptions, it's not actually giving them the full body solution that they're looking for, and they're still struggling with symptoms. It's just those 2 particular strategies can sometimes take the edge off the symptoms. And we also talk about the types of testing that is needed. So what are the labs that actually help you understand how to get back into balance with your hormones, both now and for the long term? It's not just a basic blood test that is often seen and completed. And very commonly, women are told that their labs look normal for their age and they're sent out the door. Sound familiar? So I just want to let you know that I do understand the problems you're dealing with. I'm also a female in the later stages of perimenopause. I'm someone who's struggled with hormone imbalance on and off for most of my life, actually, as a teen and an adult. And so I do understand personally what you're dealing with, but I also understand from a professional perspective and working with so many women over the years, how to find a solution for you. So again, what is one of the number one concerns? Many women are frustrated with the expanding belly and gaining weight, in particular around the abdomen. But again, it can be in the hips, the thighs, the arms. A lot of women report they feel like more flabby in the backs of the arms and just everywhere. They find their body composition is changing rapidly, and they're feeling frustrated by it. Many women are also finding again that the exhaustion most of the time, even if you get a good night's sleep, many women report to me that they're not sleeping well, but then if they do have a good night's sleep, they're still exhausted and they just can't understand it if they've been in bed and asleep all night. And again, it's just really impacting that ability to get out of bed and get the basics of life done, like getting up and making a meal for yourself or others if they live in the house with you and you're, making food, cleaning it up. But what about getting out the door, getting to work and being productive? So many women are struggling with this. I've worked with so many women that have had to go off work completely with their perimenopause, menopause symptoms. They just cannot function in their everyday life. And again, many women are feeling moody, irritable, tired all of the time. They're just not feeling like themselves anymore. They just don't care about what they used to care about. They're feeling flat, unmotivated, and it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating to feel like you're just not yourself anymore. And also sometimes many women tell me that they feel like the moods are just unpredictable. They don't even know themselves anymore. These mood swings or anger outbursts, or just anxious panic that just takes over their whole body. They just feel like they have no lead up to it. They don't know where it's coming from, and they just feel foreign in their own body with these mood swings that they're having. Again, some of these may sound highly familiar to you. So here is why this is happening. This is a very simple, simplistic graph of what's happening with hormones. And this is just estrogen, progesterone. There's other hormones that shift and change a lot too in this time of life. But estrogen and progesterone in particular. So you can see on this graph from about the age of your mid 30s all the way up to your 60s, there's a drastic drop in your estrogen and progesterone. And they don't drop at an even level. Progesterone, that bottom line on the green here, it drops way more rapidly than estrogen. So we lose about 90% of our estrogen from the time that we go into from the early perimenopause days, well into that transition into menopause. Average age of menopause is 52 to 55. So you can see progesterone just drops dramatically. And by the time we're 60, we've lost almost all of it. Estrogen drops too. It doesn't drop quite as dramatically as progesterone at the start. The biggest drop comes with that menopause transition when we stop having a period for more than 12 months. This graph doesn't represent it as well as I would like, but estrogen is fluctuating up and down a lot as it lowers. And that's partly what often is responsible for some of the symptoms that we're feeling. So we have very fluctuating levels of estrogen in perimenopause and the menopause transition, and we're having a huge drop in progesterone, which leaves us in a hormone imbalance situation. So back to what may happen for you. This is the most typical thing. If you're a female and you're starting to get some of those symptoms I described and or more, one of the main things you're probably going to do is you're going to go for a visit to either your general practitioner or another healthcare professional that you hope can help you with your symptoms. And what is typical is you will chat through your symptoms. Now, the practitioner, if they are able to, they may or may not order lab tests for you. And they will tell you that this is normal for your age. Every woman experiences it. And they will either offer you a prescription very commonly and have you go out the door, follow up as and if needed. If you need adjustments to dosing or different prescriptions. And if you do have blood labs done and they come back and they look, quote unquote, normal, you will be dismissed and left to manage things on your own. Does this sound familiar? Because it's very, very common. I want to let you know a little bit about me so you can understand my background and what my approach is to helping you as a female over 40 to resolve your symptoms both now and for the long term. So, again, I have been a women's health care professional for many, many years, over 20, almost 25 now. And I've helped hundreds and hundreds of females rebalance their hormones and regain their vibrance and their overall health balance for the long term. Like I said, I've personally suffered from symptoms of hormone imbalance on and off for many, many years. And so I do understand what you're going through. I do understand some of the things that can be tried, and some things work for some women, not for others. But we really need to understand what an overall whole body solution is to have lasting results. So I do have a deep passion for you as a female if you're struggling with symptoms. But I also know that there is a solution to get you feeling like the best version of yourself in your 30s, late 30s, 40s, and beyond. You don't have to keep suffering the way that you are now. And you can see these pictures of me here. You can see this picture on the left. So my looker's left, and that was before. So I had gained quite a bit of weight, especially around the abdomen. I was exhausted. I was moody all the time. You can see the color of my face there and nose quite red. I had a ton of inflammation in my body. I looked bloated. I was retaining fluid. I was really out of balance with my mood. I was feeling low a lot of the time and just really mood swingy, if you will. And I just wasn't feeling like myself. And that was, reflecting back now, that was right at the transition into perimenopause that I started to feel that way. And I did seek out so many different practitioners to try and help me with my situation, conventional doctors, non-conventional doctors, natural practitioners, you name it, I had tried it. And it wasn't until I actually found a functional medicine practitioner that could help me. And the way they did that was by running the proper labs I'd never even heard of before. It wasn't just your basic blood labs that you typically would have done. I had more comprehensive functional labs done that really looked to understand the root cause of why I was struggling with the symptoms I was. And a personalized plan was put in place for me that helped me. And after this, I regained and rebalanced my weight. I came back down to the weight that I was actually in my late teens, early 20s. And I felt comfortable in my body again. You can see that my face was not red and inflamed anymore. I didn't look all puffy. My energy came back. I was struggling with so much brain fog when I was moody all the time, too. That fog lifted, things cleared for me. It was like the clouds opened up again. So I looked and felt much better in my body, and I was able to start to do the things that I enjoyed again. So that vibrance for life really came back for me. And, I want this for you as well. This is highly possible. So I want to just, again, stress so much that you don't have to struggle. You don't have to feel the way you're feeling right now. There is a way for you to get your energy back. There is a way for you to look in the mirror and feel comfortable in your body again. You can feel connected with yourself, with your close loved ones. You can feel functional in the world. And you can feel emotionally calm, balanced, strong, and vibrant. It is possible. So many women that I work with feel stronger and better in their late 40s and early to mid 50s than they did in their 30s and early 40s. So it is possible to feel better as you get older if you get the balance back in your body. Struggling is only an option, it's not a necessity. So let's talk about what the top myths are for females as they get into this age group in their 40s and beyond. And many women go down the wrong path with trying to find a solution to it. So myth number one is the best way to lose weight after 40 is with a low carb or low calorie diet. Many women are going into restriction. And often when I start with women and I get on an initial call with them and they tell me what they've been doing, the restrictions are severe. So, they're trying extreme dieting. They're going into, carnivore, keto type diets, zero carbs. And not only that, they're starving. They're eating 800 to 1200 calories a day. They're exercising like crazy. So, they're really not doing their body a service. So this is not the way to get your body back into balance as you move into your 40s. If you're looking for ways to lose weight and balance how you feel, this is not the way to do it. So again, low carb, low calorie diets, what it does is it actually puts the body under more stress. So the body's already going through major shifts. Remember that hormone graph when I showed you the significant shifts in estrogen and progesterone levels? So that does put the body under stress. Again, depending on what we do with those hormone shifts in our body. So if we go into low calorie, low carb diets when the hormones are shifting, it puts more stress on the adrenals, our liver, and our systems just don't function properly. So it actually creates more hormonal imbalance versus less. And when the body perceives more stress, metabolism slows. So it actually causes more weight gain. So myth number 2 is that the only way to balance and manage our hormone symptoms after 40, and I mean, this is just all over social media, influencers, it's so strong out in the world now in particular, is that the only way to resolve your hormone-related symptoms, especially as you get into your 40s, late 40s, early 50s, especially also once you're in menopause, is the only solution is hormone therapy, HRT, hormone replacement therapy for short. But the truth about this is that most of the reasons that women suffer in the perimenopause menopause shift, especially in the first world, if you actually look around the world with the transitions into menopause, not all females are suffering with this transition. In the first world, we're suffering the most. And the main reason for this is not the drop in the hormones. It's that our bodies are out of balance going into this shift. Our bodies are typically very high in inflammation. I reflect back on that picture of myself. I was just so full of inflammation in my body. And until I figured out what was driving that inflammation, it wouldn't have mattered. And it didn't matter what I did with my hormones because I tried all the different hormone therapies and it didn't move the needle at all for me. And actually, some of those hormonal therapies made things worse for me because it was almost like adding fuel on the fire because my inflammation was so bad. So we've really got to get to the root of why you're having these symptoms. Why is the inflammation so high for you? Why can't those hormones help you with that transition into menopause versus working against you? So myth number 3 is many women, especially when they're starting to gain weight, they assume that they just have to exercise more and harder. So if they go up to higher intensities, again, especially along with those low carb, low calorie diets, so hard on the body. But women assume that this is going to improve their body composition. They think their waistline is going to shrink, and even they're going to have more energy, possibly even better libido, if they get their body back into the composition that they're wanting. And many women think that they can exercise like they did in their late teens, early 20s. That intense exercise, which a lot of women do in that time of life to maintain body composition, and the body responds more then. You get into your 40s and 50s, the body does not respond the same way. Many women report that they have no change to their body composition despite putting these plans in place, and it's just absolutely demoralizing. But the reason for this is because intense exercise, again, back to how it increases the stress on your body. So you have less hormone in your body, especially estrogen and progesterone in your 40s and 50s than you did in your 20s and early 30s. So as soon as you start to exercise at intense levels, it puts more stress on your body because you don't have the hormone reserves that you once did. Not only is it hard on the body from an energy perspective, and ability to recover perspective, it's also very hard on the joints. And you just don't recover that way either. A lot of women I know, they struggle with a lot more joint pain, injuries that just seem like they never happened before. And now they're getting all these micro injuries, tears, poor recovery from exercise, and they're not feeling energized after they exercise. They're feeling flat out exhausted, sometimes for days on end. It takes them that long to recover. So we cannot increase the exercise intensity without increasing the stress on our body in this time of life. We have to exercise differently. So what does work to optimize your weight, your energy, your mood, and several other symptoms as a female over 40? What actually is the solution? So one of the solutions is, again, not those low carb, those fad diets. It's to tune into your diet and get consistent with an anti-inflammatory food plan. Nothing extreme, nothing that's really strict. You can see here the image. So colorful fruits and vegetables, lean, healthy proteins and fats, a little bit of healthy grain carbohydrate is fine. Yes, you don't need to be on a low to no carb diet. paleo or, even keto, more restrictive even than that. There is diets that are more restrictive than that, but we don't need that. And actually our hormones to stay balanced, we do need some healthy carbohydrate coming in. It's part of actually what helps us big time with mood balance and hormonal balance in this time of life. So don't think that the more extreme you go, the more results you're going to get. It actually will backfire, and we need balance. Anti-inflammatory food planning involves eating lean proteins, healthy carbs, lots of fiber, which you'll get from those fruits and vegetables, and lean, healthy fats. So, eating those fried foods, those saturated fats, that takeout food, those aren't healthy fats. And that will backfire on you more in this time of life from an inflammation perspective. But again, consistency is key. So I also want to reflect on this with one of my clients. Her name is Shelly. Now, Shelly had gained a lot of weight in perimenopause. She said that she had struggled with yo-yo weight on and off her whole life, but she'd never gained this much weight. And so she did equate it to hormone shifts because she gained weight and she found it significantly harder to lose, despite putting the same strategies in place that she usually had, which was those fad diets and extreme exercise to lose weight. But she would gain it all back. And this time she gained it back and there was no losing it. So, but when I worked with Shelly, in less than 6 months after we had worked with what we needed to with her, she was able to lose all that weight and maintain it. So, initially she said she just felt foreign in her body. She almost felt gross. She just didn't feel worthy of love and just, who she was. She just didn't recognize herself anymore. Super busy, like most women are in their 40s and early to mid 50s. They've got all the balls in the air. They're doing all the things. She's a wife, a mom, entrepreneur, still is. And she just felt like she couldn't show up as the person she needed to be for herself, for her family, for her business. And she knew something needed to change. So what we did was some lab tests. So for Shelly, we did metabolic testing from a genetic perspective. So this is a test called DNA Diet. And it actually shows us the types of dietary strategies that will help her metabolism respond the best. So she was actually very poor at responding to saturated fat intake, and that can definitely come from those fried fatty foods. Eating a lot of red meat in particular is very high in saturated fat, a lot of dairy products. So a lot of those animal-based products is where we get high in the saturated fat intake. So Shelly actually needed to eat leaner fats to help her there. So we actually completely adapted her diet around that. She had poor carbohydrate responsiveness to the simple carbs. So this is where people get into trouble, is they think they need to take out all carbs. For her, it was those simple white carbs. So, the white bread, the white flours, we reduced and eliminated those. And the simple sugars, she still ate complex carbohydrates though. We also figured out her type of exercise responsiveness. She needed to be in a type of exercise that helped her metabolism. And so we'll talk through that here on the next page, but we can get very specific based on running a genetic panel here to understand how to optimize metabolic health through both dietary and exercise strategies. We also ran a urine test called an organic acids test. And we saw for Shelly as well that her metabolic struggles were not just tied into diet and food. It was also tied in actually to bacterial overgrowths in her gut. So this first page actually shows some of the markers. Some of them are flagged high and some of them are trending above the median quite significantly. And those are bacterial overgrowths in the gut. So there's an imbalance in the gut microbiome here for Shelly that's actually also slowing down her metabolism. What happens with these more toxic bacteria when they overgrow in the gut for various different reasons is they give off an endotoxic load, which is inflammatory. So inflammation is always going to be higher until you get this gut and gut microbiome in balance. And for women, as the sex hormone levels lower in perimenopause, if you have inflammation in the body as the hormones lower, it slows metabolism down all the more. So really important to understand that. This test also looked at certain nutrition markers so we can understand, again, metabolically, what nutrition markers are impacting. And B vitamins, if they're depleted, impact our metabolic health, as do antioxidants like vitamin C, coenzyme Q10. So these are obviously available in supplements, but they're also highly available in foods. And so we also helped to customize Shelly's diet based on some of the nutrient depletions that she had here, catastrophically low in vitamin B6 and vitamin C, for example. So how we had the change shift for Shelly to get to that loss of 47 pounds in 6 months. Again, it wasn't a fad diet. It wasn't extreme exercising. We customized her food planning. So we reduced the simple carbohydrates, the saturated fats. We increased her fiber. We increased her vegetables, healthy fats. And so this was really key to helping her optimize her metabolism. And we did not go into any sort of calorie restriction. She actually went up on her calories versus down. She was too low in the attempt to try and lose weight. And once we made the changes consistently, again, we were able to customize more, not only just based on what we saw in the DNA genetic testing, but we had her eat foods that were richer in B6 and vitamin C, those antioxidants and B vitamins that also help the metabolism, along with coenzyme Q10, which comes from those lean, healthy animal-based foods. So she ate more white meat and fish, and she reduced the red meats. So we got highly customized with her. And the DNA testing, again, also showed that she needed a moderate amount of cardiovascular exercise to improve on her weight. So she was doing that on a daily basis, 30 to 40 minutes of a moderate paced walk or hike. And that was also part of what gave her the change that she needed. So the best part of this is it wasn't so restrictive that she couldn't maintain it. It didn't feel like an extreme, something really restrictive. So along the way, not only did she have those changes to her weight, but she observed that her mood improved. She felt more present and vibrant. She felt like she was a better parent again because she wasn't tired, fatigued, exhausted, losing it on her family when she just didn't feel like herself. So her life really took a turn for the better. Along with all this, her business started to really flourish as well. She was an independent coach. So it was really great to see. So things can change for you like that too. Now, step number 2 that many women don't realize, and I did reflect on this a little bit, touch on it with Shelly, is many women think that the shifts they're feeling in their body in the symptoms are all hormone related. It's all to do with those lowering sex hormones, like we saw on that graph. And yes, your sex hormone levels are lowering in your 40s. There is no doubt. Yes, it can start to make symptoms start to scream at you versus just be more silent. But very, very commonly, women don't know or realize this, but to help them balance those hormonal symptoms that they're feeling in perimenopause and menopause, they need to heal their gut. And why is that? Well, let's talk through it. So the first way we have to understand this is to understand, why is your gut out of balance in the first place? So back to the graph. So we can see again that risk period for when women start to have more symptoms, various symptoms, as they get into their late 30s. It often peaks around the age of 50, 55, but there's symptoms that can be up and down all along. And even, post-menopause, 5 to 10 years out, many women are often still struggling with symptoms with these huge hormonal shifts. But this is also a time when the gut gets out of balance too. And part of that is because estrogen is a strong motility agent in the gut. What that means is it actually helps us to move toxic load through the body that damages the gut lining and promotes more inflammation. So where does this toxic load come from? I mean, for females, we're just, notoriously putting on different products on our skin and our hair. We often eat convenience foods because we got all the balls in the air. We're busy juggling things, running around in the car from one thing to the next, different activities for ourselves, family members, if you have kids. You're doing all the things. And many women are living this fast-paced lifestyle that actually has increased toxic load. Plastics, microplastics, we're exposed more than ever. Almost anything you buy at the grocery store is in plastic, even your healthy organic greens. So we just can't get around the fact that we do have increased toxic load and toxic burden in our bodies. And as our estrogen levels lower, we're just not as efficient at getting rid of this toxic load in the body. So over time, it starts to damage and break down our gut lining, and that creates more inflammation in our bodies. So let's talk about a client and how this can relate to you. So again, you may not have gut symptoms. You may not feel bloated. You may not have constipation, diarrhea, things that seem really obviously tied into the gut. Now, some women do, but many don't. So I think of my client, Mary, her top concerns were exhaustion, fatigue, low energy, poor sleep. And if she did have a good sleep, she was still exhausted. And she thought this was all hormone related. So she was seeking out treatment for her hormones. She tried HRT, she tried birth control, she tried all the things to balance her hormones because she thought that this was 100% related to the hormone shifts. But what we did discover is that she had an imbalance in her gut, and that was the main reason she was struggling with these symptoms. So the lowering hormones triggered the symptoms, but it wasn't the root cause of the problem, which is super common for women. I see this all the time. They think that the hormones are the root cause of the problem, but they're actually the triggering agent because hormones are lowering, but they're not the primary cause. So her primary cause was that she actually had a huge bacterial overgrowth in her gut of Candida, very, very common, a fungal overgrowth. So many women will experience this on and off throughout their life in different forms, which is very commonly yeast infections vaginally. But often when women are getting these vaginal yeast infections as well, they often have a massive overgrowth in their gut and it's never detected. Many women buy the over-the-counter antifungals or prescription antifungals to help them with their vaginal yeast infection, but they never actually address what's going on in the gut. So for Mary, once she got rid of this bacterial overgrowth in her gut, along the way, and it was almost immediate, she started to notice a lift in the fog with her brain. So she was functioning better. She was, brain was firing more on all cylinders. She wasn't forgetting why she was at the grocery store anymore. If this sounds familiar to you, I remember that was one of my top symptoms as well, was brain fog and exhaustion. And I also had massive imbalances in my gut microbiome. So, like Mary, she had to get to the gut to help her improve on these symptoms. So again, what we did was some lab testing. So we did a specific test, a stool test, to actually understand the buildup of potential non-favorable bacteria. It also looked at the balance of the good to the beneficial bacteria in the gut. And usually when there's a Candida overgrowth, there's a huge imbalance in the gut microbiome. So we had to get to that to help her. So here's the testing. So you can see anything here that's flagged high, these are overgrowths of non-favorable bacteria. And this is not ideal. Ideally, we don't see things flagged up in the red like that for non-favorable bacteria. So there was Candida, there was H. pylori, there was poor digestion markers here as well. There was also parasites, blastocystis, and others. So she just had a massive overgrowth in her gut. The Candida was the biggest issue for her, and she was very symptomatic of this, but she had other overgrowths as well. So again, back to how we can help you. And Mary got her resolved by us balancing that gut microbiome. Now, one other thing that's super common for women, and a lot of women can feel this in their bodies, but they just don't know what to do about it, and that is the stress. So many women are doing all the things. Again, they're holding up all the balls in the air for, their household, outside the household, their work, their businesses, or, working for another employer. Some women are in really high position roles, CEOs, etc. And they're trying to manage all this when they have these huge shifts happening in their hormones. And they find it just almost impossible to manage. So I do think of someone specifically when I think of this stress bucket. We all have our own stressors, but I know someone specifically that was very disrupted by this, and we found what worked for her. And we need to find what unique strategy can work for you. But what does happen is many women feel just less resilient to stress as you get into your 40s and 50s. Many women feel like all the things that they were able to manage and handle, even in their early 40s, they can't manage in their late 40s anymore. They just break down and they just can't do all the things. They're doing less and less, and they're becoming less resilient even to the things that they're doing, which is considerably less than before. So just that capacity feels like it goes down. Now, for many women, they can be suffering with high cortisol. So you can see the graph here. This brown is the person's marker here. The high norm is this high black line here. So this person has a significant stress hormone release throughout the day, and that's daily free cortisol. So it starts high, which is very common when women aren't sleeping well. They don't get that reset of cortisol and balance of inflammation in the night. So they start with high cortisol, which also is high inflammation. For this person, their inflammation was going up, lowered down a little bit in the afternoon, and then it lowered enough, thankfully, in the evening to help with getting to sleep. But just so much cortisol being flooded in the system, which is very inflammatory, impacts your brain, your capacity, your function, your mood. Women are often very reactive when they have this high cortisol. They got just nonstop adrenaline pumping through their system throughout the day. But for this person, they weren't even metabolizing the cortisol well. So what does that mean? That cortisol that they were producing to try and help them cope and manage, they weren't even able to use very well. And this is super common when there's hormone imbalances and hormone depletions, and just a ton of inflammation in the body. So this is a pattern of real, almost tired but wired and just absolute exhaustion. So, what can be done to manage the stress? So again, back to a client that I worked with, Dawn. She had all the balls in the air. She had a super busy job, demanding boss. She was working her way up and doing more and more work as she got closer to the end of her career, which is super common with women working their way up the corporate ladder. She had aging parents. They were both palliative, so she was supporting them. She was, running over after long hours at the office to manage them. On the weekends, she was taking care of her grandchildren to give her kids a break as well. And she wanted to have a connection with her grandchildren. But she was just absolutely overloaded, and she wasn't sleeping well. She had so much on her mind. Her nervous system couldn't calm down, just all that cortisol circulating. And this was happening for months and months and months. And the scale was increasing. So she was gaining weight fairly quickly, 10 pounds every 3 months or more. She was feeling miserable, moody, sluggish all the time. It was impacting her relationships with her adult children, her partner, but she just felt powerless to change any of it. This may sound familiar for you. But what did we have to do? We really had to identify what the top stressors were for Dawn. We had to have a serious, just conversation about what are the things that are causing you the most stress. How is this impacting your body? And we did lab testing to help her understand that so she could really see what was happening. And what are some of the things that she can do to both buffer the stress and take away some of the stressors in her life that she didn't need to keep on her plate. So, with us problem solving this, Dawn did get her life back. She took away some of the things that were really impacting her ability to manage stress. She was not going to her parents to the palliative care as much. She asked her siblings to help as well. So she wasn't the one who was there all the time. She was cycling through. So her parents were still supported, but she wasn't the main person who was always helping. She also had a chat with her daughter about the grandkids, and she took them every second weekend instead of every weekend. So she did start to take charge of taking some things off her plate. And she started to exercise and move again in the way that her body needed it. She started with some gentle stretching and yoga and just some short walks. And she started to lose weight again and feel like herself. So, it did take time, but she was able to do it with a very structured, clear plan. So, the first step for us and for Dawn was to realize where she was at with that stress. And a lot of people they know they're under significant amounts of stress. They normalize it and they just keep going, but they really don't feel like they have a path through it or a way out of it. So they just keep going. But what can happen, and I'll show you here on step 4, we're going to see another graph. And this often can tie into exercise, but it can tie into high stress as well. And that step 4 is, how do we move our body in a way that it needs to be moved in this time of life in our 40s and 50s? It's not the same as in our 20s and early 30s, more 20s. We're just not going to yield the same results with the types of exercise that we used to typically do to balance our bodies. And again, it's that high intensity exercise, those HIIT workouts, prolonged workouts, or, extreme, like 2-3 hour mega workouts, multiple days in a row. We're just not going to respond to that anymore. So, again, I reflect on this even with my previous client, Dawn, because what had happened for her is she was initially running on really high cortisol. If you remember that initial graph I showed, the cortisol was through the roof high as far as production. And this often happens for women when the adrenaline's up and they're just running from one task to another for a long period of time. But what can eventually happen, and this can also happen either with, again, high stress and or high exercise output, which can be perceived as high stress, is eventually the body can't keep up with that cortisol production. And you see the graph go in the complete opposite direction. So again, that brown line there we can see is at the lowest low with cortisol production now. So the cortisol basically production has crashed. The adrenals are not able to communicate properly. Communication with the adrenals to have that output of cortisol is no longer there. And this is a pattern most typically that I see when women are in just complete exhaustion. So they're not able to mount that stress response anymore, even like Dawn was, like they're not able to get themselves to work, to function at that higher level at work, to keep going after work and do all the things. These are the women that are barely able to get out of bed and get function happening in their everyday lives. So this is that cortisol crash, and it can happen when you've been exercising intensely for years on end as well. Or if you're feeling that you're having symptoms, weight gain is the most common one, again, for women, that they try to overexercise. And when you have less sex hormone in the system, which buffers some of that ability to handle intense exercise, more stress goes onto the adrenals. And so we can see this here with that low cortisol output. So, what did we do here to help this person improve on that cortisol so they could feel better, have more energy, also start to lose weight? So when you have that really flat cortisol curve, it slows down your metabolism too. So it's almost impossible to lose weight, even with extreme intense exercise. So most people, and they can't understand it when I initially tell them. They're like, no, that's not possible. How could I do less and actually have a better response in my body? But many people need to slow down. They just need to really slow the F down with what they're doing. They need to sit on the couch. They need to put their feet up. They need to drink fluids, eat healthy, move their bodies, but not over exercise. So things like yoga, maybe short HIIT workouts, 10 to 15 minutes a couple times a week, still can be helpful, but not those long, intense exercise workouts. Walking, again, thinking of Dawn, walking 20, 30, 40 minutes a day for 4 to 5, 6 times a week. And then also incorporating weight. So women do lose muscle mass more quickly as they get into their 40s and 50s. And there's many different reasons for that. The hormone shifts are certainly one of them. So a great compensation for that is to lift weights. But many women start by lifting too heavy. They're told that lifting heavy helps them maintain muscle mass. But they don't have that platform to start from, and they don't have enough cortisol and balance in their hormones to actually achieve results. And often women injure themselves doing that too. So you really want to start with light weights a couple times a week, 20, 30 minutes maximum, and you can work your way up from there. So you can see how adjusting what you're doing based on what we see with hormone shifts and changes happening in your body, how functional labs can influence as well what you're doing well beyond what you're just doing with hormones, shifting deeper into the body and understanding the bigger systems to help you balance what you need to improve on your weight, your mood, and energy. These are the keys. And this is what I see with women that I work with day in and day out in my practice. This is how they get themselves feeling better, feeling more balanced, both now with symptoms and also improving their long-term health. So many women report these body and brain composition changes, both now and for many, many years to come. I follow women well beyond the time that we work together intensely to help them get their systems back into balance, to make sure that they're feeling like they're still in good balance for years to come. So what are the next steps? Do you think that this could be you? So I do offer a free strategy call if you've never spoken with me before. This is reserved specifically for women that feel like they are ready to take charge of their health. They are looking for a total body solution to improving their health both now and for many years to come. They're just not looking for that quick fix symptom management strategy with what they can order on Amazon tomorrow or at their doctor's office the next day. And so when we have that strategy call, we talk about your top concerns, we talk about your health goals, we talk about if it could be a good fit for us to work together or not. I also do give you some real-time strategies on the call based on your symptoms. However, we can't really understand how to truly help you, as you could see, until we go deeper and look at your overall health, look at labs, understand where the true root causes of your imbalances are coming from. But you do get something out of this strategy call, regardless if we take the next steps to work together one-on-one. So please, if you feel like you're ready to take the next steps to not only improve on your symptoms that you're struggling with right now and potentially feeling like you're not even able to get by with your current life, with where things are at with your hormone imbalances, I highly recommend that you book that complimentary consult with me. Regardless, you will get something out of it with understanding what the next potential steps could be for you. So to book that call, I'll just go to the next page here. So you can see there is a link there at the bottom. Feel free to copy and paste that if you like. And that is the discovery call link. So, again, you can book that. You can look at my schedule and see what's available. And if not, the other thing you can do is you can go to my website at www.angelasimpsonfunctionalmedicine.ca. And that is a place where you can also book that strategy call. But you also can see on my website there, I have a series of blog posts with various different topics of interest for hormone symptoms, hormone imbalance for females over 40. So you can search topics of interest to understand what I do to help women get to the root causes of these, to understand solutions. That's another way for you to understand if it may be a good fit for us to work together. I'll also let you know here that I do have a YouTube channel where you can also look at topics of interest. And I have various different topics, some of the most common ones that women struggle with, because you tell me what your most common symptoms are. And I YouTube them. I give videos, blog posts to help you understand what potential solutions are. So lots of different potential touch points there, ways to connect with me. Thank you so much. If you have been someone here, I do see there's quite a few ladies on the call that have stayed right to the end. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. I'll make sure actually after I come off the recording that there is the ability for you to ask questions, potential next steps, or even if you want a quick problem solve on where you're at with your symptoms and what you could do. I'm happy to stay on and chat with you again. So thanks so much for being here. Anyone who stayed on till the end too, there is actually a free gift. And so I'll make sure that I get that connected with you. I'll send you the link in the chat for that free gift. I will be hosting this webinar again, so make sure you tell your friends, your loved ones, females that are struggling, moving into perimenopause, menopause, let them know that they don't have to struggle anymore. They don't have to carry on. You can see from some of the clients' examples I've shared here, some of the results that they've had. They are quite amazing and significant. And that can be you, that can be your girlfriend, that can be your sister, your cousin, that could even be your mom. So I'm happy to, open up the ability to learn how I could help you and others around you that are struggling with hormonal imbalance symptoms over 40, 50, and beyond. Thank you so much, ladies. I will hopefully see you or chat with you soon. And again, I just appreciate so much you taking time out of your day and being on this call here. Thanks so much.